At first, the sky looked beautiful. Threads of light wove across the clouds, twisting like ribbons of dawn. People stepped out of their cars, out of cafes, out of their lives to watch. Phones rose. Laughter echoed. Then the light tore open. The air split with a sound that didn't belong on Earth, low, metallic, endless. The clouds folded inward, revealing a wound of color no human I had ever seen. Through it came shapes, vast, angular, alive. Not ships, not storms, something between both. By the time the first wave entered the atmosphere, satellites had already gone blind. Electricity stuttered. Air traffic controllers stared at dead screens. The world went quiet for exactly 37 seconds. And then the cities began to burn. In London, Commander Aric Hale watched his fighter squadron scramble. He'd trained for wars between nations, not universes. The alien craft moved like thoughts, bending physics, bending sound. Missiles never reached them. They curved, vanished, or simply stopped midair. Control, this is Hale. Targets not locking. There. The transmission cut to static. Below, the Thames boiled where one of the beams struck. Glass melted in midfall. The skyline folded into itself like paper and fire. Across the world, the same story played out. New York, Shanghai, Moscow, gone within hours. Governments vanished into silence. The word invasion lost meaning. This wasn't conquest. It was replacement. The Voruuk dominion arrived with purpose. They didn't broadcast demands. They didn't speak. They landed vast obsidian structures into the ruins, machines that pulsed with light and began to reshape the ground itself. Forests wilted. Rivers turned to metal. The planet started to change shape, molecule by molecule, to something that suited them. Aric's squadron didn't last a day. His jet was hit by a wave of energy that killed every system in an instant. He ejected into fire and smoke, landing on the edge of what used to be Heathrow. When he opened his eyes, he saw the first Voruuk on the ground, tall, jointed, faceless, surrounded by a shimmer that bent the air. They moved without sound, harvesting the wounded, scanning bodies, discarding the dead. He crawled through wreckage until the heat forced him underground, an abandoned service tunnel still humming with emergency power. There he found others, engineers, medics, a terrified child clutching a cracked tablet still showing the last image from orbit, the blue Earth haloed in that impossible light. "It's the end," someone whispered. "No," Aric said, voice raw. "It's the beginning of the fight." For 3 days, the survivors listened to the world end. The ground shook with alien construction. The air turned cold and thin. When they finally emerged, the skyline was gone, replaced by black towers and silent drones patrolling the ruins. The invasion was complete. Humanity's reign on Earth had ended in less than 72 hours. On the 5th night, something strange happened. A faint signal flickered across a still-working radio, an SOS repeating in an old military code. It came from deep beneath the ruins of Washington, D.C. If anyone can hear this, humanity is not finished. We will endure. We will adapt. Remember who we are. Aric listened to it on loop, the static crackling like heartbeat. He looked up through the collapsed roof at the alien sky, now red with haze and crossed by lines of light leading to orbit. "You hear that?" he said to the small group beside him. "They think they've won. Let's prove them wrong." The others nodded, exhausted but alive. Somewhere above, the Voruuk machines continued to reshape the Earth, unaware that deep below, the first sparks of resistance had already lit. Voiceover slows, ending line echoing in quiet music. The day the sky broke wasn't the end of our world. It was the start of our story. It began with a flicker, just a whisper of static in a dead world. And for the first time in years, Earth heard something human again. The transmission came through the old relay under the city ruins. It was weak, encrypted, and filled with interference, but there was no mistaking the tone, a human distress call, bouncing endlessly in orbit. Aric stood over Elara's shoulder as she replayed the signal, his breath shallow. The others crowded behind, silent. "To any survivors, this is Erebus Station. Repeat, this is Human Outpost Erebus Station. We are still alive. Need assistance. Coordinates. Transmitting. The message cut off, looping. Aric's pulse hammered in his ears. Erebus station, he murmured. That's one of ours. Orbital defense line. Pre-war. Elara nodded. It's still running. Somehow. But there was more. The signal wasn't just a cry for help. It contained something buried in the data stream. A code pattern, pulsing like a heartbeat. Elara decoded it through the night, surrounded by the dim glow of scavenged monitors. When morning came, she looked up, eyes red from exhaustion. It's not just a message, she said. It's a map. Aric leaned closer. A map to what? She hesitated. To the last working orbital shuttle system. A launch site the Voruuk missed. Silence filled the room. Then someone whispered, "You mean we can leave Earth?" Aric didn't answer. He didn't need to. The fire in his eyes said everything. That night, the Enclave gathered again. Every soul staring at the old projection wall. Elara showed them the decoded data, the location, somewhere deep in the Scandinavian ruins, where the mountains had swallowed an old military launch site called Blackridge Base. If we can reach it, she explained, we can reach orbit. And if Erebus is still online, maybe it's more than just a distress call. Maybe it's the key to taking Earth back. Someone scoffed. And how do we get through them? Everyone knew what them meant. The Voruuk patrol grids, the sky drones, the ground scanners that could smell movement through a kilometer of concrete. Aric stood, voice steady. The same way we've always done it. We move quiet, we move smart, and we make them think we're still scared. He looked around the room. We aren't anymore. The journey took 3 weeks. 3 weeks of crawling through broken tunnels, navigating collapsed highways, and hiding from alien patrols that hummed like mechanical predators above the surface. Aric led the team himself. 10 people, armed with scavenged rifles, EMP grenades, and what courage they had left. Elara went too, carrying the coordinates burned into her mind like a promise. On the 15th day, they crossed into the dead forests of Norway. The air shimmered faintly, the sign of Voruuk atmospheric distortion. Drones passed overhead every few hours. They had to freeze in the dirt until the sky went dark again. At night, they watched alien convoys in the distance. Long metallic beasts crawling across what was once wilderness, glowing with veins of blue light. Sometimes they saw human figures in cages on the transport decks, prisoners, workers, experiments. No one spoke when they saw that. On the 20th day, they reached Blackridge. The mountain was split open, half melted by plasma fire. But deep inside, beneath the ruin, was a steel door untouched by the alien harvesters. Elara brushed snow from a keypad. Powered by a small generator she'd carried the whole way. Old tech, she whispered, but might still listen. She entered a sequence. The lock beeped twice, then clicked open. The tunnel beyond was silent and cold. Human-built, human-kept. As they descended, flickering lights came to life. Emergency systems decades old, still obeying their design. The hall opened into a vast underground chamber. And there it was, a shuttle. Sleek, black, half covered in dust and frost, but intact. The words on its hull were faded but legible. United Earth Defense, Orbital Launch Vehicle 03. Aric exhaled, a sound halfway between a laugh and a sob. We can reach them. Elara smiled faintly. We can reach us. It took days to power it up. They scavenged alien energy cells, rewired the control systems, even cannibalized a Voruuk drone for its navigation core. Elara's hands never stopped moving. The others watched in awe as the ship came back to life, lights flickering along its sides like a sleeping giant stirring. When it finally roared to life, the sound echoed through the mountain like thunder from a forgotten god. Aric placed his hand on the hull. Let's bring humanity back to the stars. But as they prepared to launch, the mountain trembled. Elara froze. They've detected the energy spike, she said. Outside, the sky lit up. Voruuk drones descending like a storm, hundreds of them. Their shrieks pierced the air, a metallic chorus of war. Aric barked orders. Defensive positions. Cover the ramp. Bullets, plasma fire. the roar of explosions. Chaos tore through the ancient hangar. Humans fell, but they held the line long enough for the engines to ignite. Elara screamed over the noise. "Aric, get in." He hesitated, then turned to her, eyes blazing. "You launch it. Get to orbit. I'll hold them off." She grabbed his arm. "I'm not leaving you." "You are," he said, forcing her into the cockpit. "If Erebus has answers, someone has to get there. Someone has to make this mean something." The ramp closed. The engine screamed, and the shuttle tore into the night sky. From below, Aric watched it rise, a streak of fire cutting through the darkness, chased by alien ships. He smiled, blood on his face, weapon in hand. "Go," he whispered. "Show them humanity still reaches higher." The mountain exploded behind him, but the last thing he saw was the shuttle breaching the clouds, leaving behind the world that had forgotten its own sound. Voiceover fade out. "For years, we hid beneath their sky. Tonight, we take it back." The world didn't end with fire. It ended with order. 5 years had passed since the sky broke. The Voruuk Empire now ruled a quiet planet. The noise of civilization, cars, cities, songs had vanished. The only sound left was the hum of the alien machines reshaping Earth into something cold and unfamiliar. They called it the renewal, a process that rebuilt continents into grids of black metal and glass. Forests became harvest zones. Oceans glowed with blue veins of energy. The air smelled of iron and rain. The few humans who survived lived beneath it all, underground, scattered through tunnels, subways, and old shelters. The Voruuk didn't hunt them. They simply ignored them, like insects too small to matter. That indifference hurt worse than conquest. Commander Aric Hale had changed. The soldier was gone. What remained was a leader with hollow eyes and a single rule: stay alive long enough to strike back. He led a small enclave beneath what used to be Northern Europe. Their base was a forgotten transport hub lit by scavenged bulbs and powered by salvaged alien batteries. Every morning, Aric walked through the sleeping quarters, counting heads, engineers, medics, children, elders, because if he didn't count, he feared they'd vanish. No transmissions, he reminded them each day. The machines listen. Always. Above ground, the Voruuk had built their empire. Towering spires marked their cities, half organic, half mechanical. Drone patrols glided between them in perfect silence. Humans caught in the open were captured, scanned, and shipped to refinement centers. No one knew what that meant. No one came back. And yet, despite the fear, whispers spread through the tunnels of a growing resistance, of enclaves connecting through old military relays, of messages hidden in static. One night, Aric met with Dr. Elara Myles, the only scientist left in his cell. She had once worked on the quantum energy project that accidentally opened the interuniversal rift, the one the Voruuk had used to invade. Her guilt was silent, but visible in every motion. "They're changing the planet's frequency," Elara explained, gesturing at a crude hologram made of light and dust. "They're tuning Earth like an instrument. When they finish, it won't sustain us anymore." Aric frowned. "So if we wait, we die quietly. If we fight, we die loud." Elara nodded. "Unless we find a third option." Every month, scouts ventured topside. They traveled through ruins wrapped in fog, where alien lights pulsed like heartbeats beneath the soil. Some never returned. Those who did brought maps, stolen components, sometimes even food. Aric went himself when he could. He said it kept him sane. On one mission, he climbed what remained of skyscraper skeleton to look at the horizon. From that height, he saw the world as the Voruuk had remade it. A lattice of energy stretching from continent to continent, connecting every tower to a single point of light far above the atmosphere. A gate, still open, still feeding power from the other universe. Aric watched the glow reflect off his visor and whispered, "You made a mistake leaving that door open." Life underground wasn't just survival, it was memory. Children learned history by candlelight, tracing old flags on the walls. Engineers repaired relics of human technology as if restoring sacred relics. Every death was recorded in a leather book titled The Debt. Sometimes, Aric read from it during the long nights. "We owe them a world," he'd say, "and one day we'll pay it back." 5 years changed people in ways war never did. Love became an act of rebellion. Laughter a weapon. They built gardens in the dark, tiny plots of green grown under artificial lamps, just to prove life still belonged here. Elara worked day and night on decoding alien data. She discovered that the Voruuk weren't expanding randomly. They were following a pattern, a grid aligned to something buried deep under Earth's crust. "They're looking for something," she told Aric. "Something that was already here before them." Aric stared at her in the dim light. "Then we'll find it first." That night, the Enclave gathered in the central chamber, a wide cavern once used as a subway terminal. Aric climbed onto a rusted train car, speaking to the 100 faces below. "I know you're tired. I know some of you think this is all there is now. But I've seen what's left of the world. The Voruuk aren't gods. They bleed light, they die like us, and they're afraid of something. I saw it in their patterns." The crowd listened in silence. "We survived 5 years under their shadow. That's not luck. That's proof we were meant to take this planet back." He lifted his fist, trembling but steady. "We're not the lost species. We're the waiting one." A murmur rose, soft at first, then stronger, a ripple through the crowd that sounded almost like hope. Later, Aric sat alone at the edge of the underground river that powered their base. The water glowed faintly with alien residue, casting ghost light on the ceiling. Elara joined him, handing a cracked tablet. "There's something you need to see," she said. The screen flickered. Lines of code, noise, then a pulse. A transmission, old but still repeating. Coordinates. In orbit. Aric's heart froze. "What is it?" "A beacon," Elara said softly. "Human origin. And it's still alive." For the first time in 5 years, Aric smiled. It didn't last long, but it was real. "Then it begins," he whispered. "The silence ends tonight." He looked up at the ceiling of rock and concrete, imagining the stars hidden beyond it. The same stars the Voruuk thought they owned. Somewhere out there, humanity had left something behind, and now they were going to take it back. Voiceover fade out. "For 5 years, we hid beneath their empire. But empires forget one thing. Silence is not surrender." The night before the storm was quiet. Too quiet for a dying planet. Deep beneath the ice of northern Europe, Commander Aric Hale sat by a dim light, listening to the static hum of an old radio. For 5 years, the frequencies had carried only silence. But now something pulsed through it. A voice. Familiar. Faint. Alive. Erebus lives. Humanity still breathes among the stars. Prepare for resistance. He froze, every muscle in his body locked. Then, slowly, a smile cut across his dirt-streaked face. "Elara," he whispered. The bunker came alive. People rushed in, confused, hopeful. Aric turned up the volume, letting the voice repeat again and again, proof that humanity had finally reached beyond the sky once more. The room erupted in cheers and tears. For the first time in years, there was music in their voices. Hours later, Aric stood over a makeshift holomap, surrounded by his officers. The map displayed alien energy lines that stretched across the planet, converging on a single point. The Voruuk power nexus, the massive core that fed energy from the orbital gate into the planetary lattice. "That's our target," Aric said, voice steady. "Erebus can't fire without power. They'll need a surge strong enough to light the old orbital weapon, Project Valkyrie." Elara's voice had carried coordinates for the gate and a data packet, schematic stolen from Erebus Station. If they could breach the nexus and hijack a piece of its energy stream, they could send it back to orbit, bringing the Valkyrie cannon online. But there was one problem. The nexus wasn't just a building. It was a city, the Voruuk capital on Earth, built over what was once Berlin. The resistance planned for weeks in the tunnels, building weapons from scraps, plasma cutters, hacked drones, even reprogrammed alien minds. Aric walked among them, watching soldiers who used to be farmers, engineers, teachers, people with nothing left to lose. They weren't an army, not in the old sense. But they had something the Voruuk never understood: memory. He addressed them before the operation. The Voruuk took our world and called it peace. They think we've forgotten the sound of thunder. Tomorrow, we remind them. The silence that followed wasn't fear. It was belief. And belief was louder than any weapon. Night fell on the ruins of Berlin. The city glowed with alien light, towering spires, pulsing conduits, drones drifting through fog like silent predators. From below, the resistance emerged, shadows in the rain, masked and armed. Aric led the first wave through the old subway tunnels, emerging near the Nexus perimeter. Above them, the core pulsed like a sun trapped underground, a swirling engine of blue energy feeding skyward through the massive beam that connected to the orbital gate. "There it is," whispered Sergeant Juno, his second-in-command. "The heart of their empire." Aric nodded. "Then let's cut it out." The assault began with light. EMP charges detonated across the perimeter. Alien sensors went blind for the first time in 5 years. Resistance soldiers poured through the breach, firing railguns and stolen plasma rifles. Voruuk soldiers, towering, insectoid forms with glimmering armor, responded instantly. The air filled with beams of white energy, tearing through steel and stone. But the humans didn't break. They moved with precision and rage, the kind born of years hiding underground, dreaming of sunlight. Aric sprinted through the chaos, covering his team as they reached the central spire. The hum of the Nexus was deafening, like the heartbeat of the planet itself. Inside, Elara's encrypted data guided them to a console embedded in the alien crystal. Juno plugged in the human-built pulse driver, a crude device of wires, energy cores, and hope. "You're sure this'll work?" he asked. Aric smirked. "I'm not sure it won't." The console came alive, symbols flashing in alien script. The pulse driver began to hum, drawing power from the Nexus flow. Then a new sound, high-pitched, mechanical, angry. Defense drones activated, unfolding from the walls like living blades. "Hold them off," Aric shouted. They fought in the glow of the alien core, human silhouettes against burning blue light. The air was thick with smoke and sparks. Juno took a hit but stayed standing, covering Aric as he uploaded the data stream to Erebus. "Come on, Elara," Aric muttered through gritted teeth. "Take the shot." In orbit, Elara and Commander Rourke watched as data flooded their console, a surge of energy climbing from the planet to the station systems. The Valkyrie cannon hummed to life for the first time in years, its internal rings spinning, blue light building like a storm. "Signal confirmed," Rourke said. "Power transfer successful. Targeting lock in progress." Elara's eyes locked on the massive Voruuk gate hovering above the atmosphere. "Do it." Rourke's synthetic hand hovered over the control. "For Earth." The station trembled as the Valkyrie cannon fired, a beam of white-hot energy tearing through orbit, splitting clouds and atmosphere alike. The blast struck the gate dead center. For a moment, the universe went silent. Then the gate screamed. It cracked like glass under immense pressure, its edges fracturing as alien energy spilled out in waves. The Voruuk ships in orbit convulsed and disintegrated, their systems overwhelmed. Below, the Nexus began to collapse, its power flow destabilizing. Aric and his team ran through collapsing corridors, chased by walls of fire and plasma. "Erebus!" Aric shouted into the radio. "The core's blowing. We got what you need. Now finish it." Elara's voice came back through the static, calm but trembling. "We already did." Aric looked up through the glass ceiling of the Nexus, just in time to see it, a streak of light cutting across the night sky, splitting the heavens open. The gate imploded, collapsing inward in a silent explosion that rippled through space like the breath of a dying god. The Voruuk's connection to their universe was gone. Their empire was trapped. The shockwave hit the planet minutes later. The skies burned blue, then cleared. And for the first time since the invasion, the stars were visible again. Aric stood amid the ruins, battered and bloodied, staring at the quiet above. Around him, his soldiers emerged, wide-eyed and speechless. Juno whispered, "We actually did it." Aric looked at the horizon, smoke rising, but the air clearer than it had ever been. "No," he said softly. "We started it." Voiceover fade out. They thought we'd forgotten how to fight. But humanity never forgets how to rise. The stars had never looked so close or so empty. Elara Myles sat in the cockpit of the old shuttle, its panels flickering with dying lights. The earth curved beneath her like a bruised marble, scarred, burning in patches, wrapped in the metallic web of Voruuk towers. For 5 years, she'd stared at that sky from the dirt. Now she was inside it again, weightless, trembling, and very much alone. The ship drifted beyond the cloud cover, its old thrusters groaning. The alien ships that had chased her through the ascent had peeled off. Perhaps they thought she wouldn't survive orbit. They were wrong. She looked at the coordinates on the screen. Erebus Station, last known human defense platform. Altitude, 210 kilometers. Status, unknown. "Come on," she whispered. "You've been waiting for us." She aligned the shuttle and fired the remaining thrusters. The earth fell away, and a shadow emerged ahead. Vast, broken, and drifting. Erebus Station, once the pride of humanity's orbital defense grid. Now a skeleton of black steel wrapped in frost, rotating slowly above the dead planet. As she approached, the comms system crackled again. A faint voice, distorted, looping. "Human outpost, Erebus, we are still alive." The same signal. But as she drew closer, a second voice overlapped it, deeper, colder. "Unauthorized vessel detected. Identify." Elara froze. That wasn't a recording. That was new. She swallowed hard and hit the transmitter. "This is Dr. Elara Myles of the Earth Enclave. Human. Repeat, human." A long pause. Then, human identity confirmed. Docking Bay 7 unlocked. The channel went silent. Her hands trembled. There's someone, or something, still operating the station. The shuttle locked into the docking ring with a shudder. Air hissed through the decompression seals. Elara gripped her sidearm. It felt absurdly small up here, but it was all she had. The doors opened to a corridor of frozen air and darkness. Every footstep echoed like a drumbeat in a tomb. Lights flickered faintly, guiding her deeper into the station's spine. She passed empty crew quarters, cracked viewports, floating debris. A toothbrush, a photo, a dried blood stain drifting in zero gravity. It wasn't until she reached the command deck that she saw it. A figure, standing perfectly still at the console. Human-shaped but wrong. Half of its body was synthetic, half skeletal. Its eyes glowed faint blue. "You're human," she whispered. The figure turned slowly. Its voice was calm, almost gentle. "I was. Once. Commander Elias Rourke, Erebus Defense Division." "You're late, Doctor." Her throat tightened. Rourke had been one of the architects of the planetary defense grid. She met him once before the war. A brilliant tactician, stubborn as stone. Now, he was something else. A ghost welded into metal. "What happened to you?" she asked softly. Rourke looked toward the viewing window. They came fast. The Voruuk took the fleet, tore through the grid. We were losing air, power, people, so I integrated, merged with the AI core to keep the station running. He tapped his head with a faint metallic click. "Kept it alive. Kept us alive. Us." He nodded toward the console. A dozen green blips flickered faintly. Cryopods. 17 survivors. Still in stasis. Waiting for an Earth that can wake them. Elara exhaled slowly. "Then maybe we can give them that." Rourke turned to her, his mechanical eyes focusing. "You came here for more than ghosts, Doctor." She nodded. "We found your signal. We're still fighting. But we can't win from the ground. We need something, anything, that can strike back." Rourke studied her, then gestured for her to follow. "Then you came to the right graveyard." They moved through the central bay. Massive blast doors opened with a deep groan, revealing a hangar filled with shadowed shapes. Hulks of old war machines, silent, dust-covered. Rourke stopped before one of them. A sleek, dark structure the size of a small building. "Project Valkyrie," he said quietly. "Experimental orbital weapon. Quantum accelerator array. Built to punch holes through the Voruuk gates." Elara's heart pounded. "It works?" "Not yet. Needs a power core. We lost it when the main reactor blew. Elara frowned. The Voruuk gate above Earth? It's still open. They've been drawing energy from it nonstop. Rourke turned sharply. You're suggesting we steal their power source. I'm saying, she replied, voice hard, we take back what they stole first. For a moment, the old commander just stared at her. Then, slowly, a thin smile crossed his half-metal face. You sound like someone who remembers what being human means. Hours passed. Together they brought Erebus's systems online. Navigation, sensors, old communication arrays. Every circuit that flickered back to life felt like a pulse of humanity returning. From orbit, they could see everything. The Voruuk cities, the planetary lattice of energy, the gate above, shimmering like a wound in space. Rourke pointed. That's their anchor. Destroy it, and you cut their empire off from home. Can we hit it from here? Not yet. But if you can give me that power core, we can light the sky again. Elara stared out at Earth. Her home, her ruin. She thought of Aric, still down there, fighting to keep people alive. She thought of the promise they made in the dark. We will, she said quietly. We'll find a way. Rourke nodded once. Then let's make the Voruuk remember what they started. As Elara prepared to send her first encrypted transmission back to the surface, the stars outside shimmered and then dimmed. The gate pulsed once. Then, for the first time in 5 years, something new emerged from it. Voruuk capital vessels. Dozens of them, bigger than anything the planet had ever seen. Rourke's mechanical eyes widened. They're reinforcing. They're preparing for something. Elara felt the cold spread in her chest. Then we're out of time. She hit the transmitter, sending a coded signal back toward Earth. To any survivors, Erebus lives. Humanity still breathes among the stars. Prepare for resistance. Her voice echoed through the dead frequencies of space, crossing the void like a heartbeat finding its rhythm again. Below her, the planet glowed faintly, blue, wounded but waiting. And in that moment, Elara Myles swore an oath under her breath. We're coming home. Voiceover fade out. They took our world, but they forgot the one rule of every empire. The ghosts of the fallen always rise. The war ended on a whisper, not a cheer, not a trumpet, just the quiet sound of wind moving through the ruins of a world trying to remember itself. Months passed since the fall of the Voruuk flagship. Earth was a graveyard of towers, broken machines, and half-buried skeletons of alien metal. Cities were being rebuilt, but slowly, not from steel or stone, but from memory. Children played in the shadow of collapsed spires. Farmers planted crops in the glass soil of old battlefields. And for the first time in years, the night sky was dark, truly dark. No drones, no alien lights, just stars. But something about those stars had changed. Astronomers, the few who still had telescopes, began to report strange fluctuations, faint pulses, and distortions in the upper atmosphere. Every signal traced back to one place, the scar in the sky where the gate had once torn through reality. Commander Aric Hale stood on the balcony of the new Resistance Command building, a patchwork fortress of concrete and scavenged alien alloy overlooking what used to be Berlin. He watched the horizon flicker faintly. Not fire, not lightning, something else. Still watching the ghosts. Elara Myles stepped beside him, wrapped in a long gray coat. Her eyes, once bright, were lined with exhaustion. She'd spent months analyzing what little remained of Voruuk data fragments, and what she'd found didn't make sense. It's not random, she said quietly. The energy pattern from the gate isn't fading. It's reorganizing. Aric frowned. You're saying it's alive? Elara hesitated. I'm saying it's calling. Half a world away, in the ruins of Nevada, engineers uncovered something buried deep beneath the desert, a structure that predated the invasion. Smooth walls, black as space, covered in the same symbols found on Voruuk command ships. Dr. Chun, the head of the excavation, sent a message to Berlin. This wasn't built by them. It was here before they arrived. The word spread through the new human networks like wildfire. If the Voruuk didn't build it, who did? Meanwhile, on Erebus Station, the silence of orbit was breaking. Rourke, now commanding the rebuilt fleet, monitored faint readings near the moon. A distortion like the one that preceded the original invasion, but weaker, fragmented. Could be residual radiation, one text said. Or a warning, Rourke muttered. Elara joined the feed from Earth. We destroyed the gate, but the energy didn't vanish. It folded into something we can't detect directly, something between space and time. Rourke leaned closer to the hollow display. You're saying the gate's echoing through dimensions. Elara nodded. And something's answering back. Aric gathered the resistance leaders that night. Maps covered the table, global reconstruction efforts, alien ruins, unexplored regions. For once, Earth was united. But the question no one wanted to ask hung in the air. Had they truly won? We fought to free this planet. Aric began, voice low. But if there's more out there, if the Voruuk weren't the only ones. Sergeant Juno slammed a hand on the table. Then we fight again. You don't get it, Elara interrupted. This isn't another invasion. This is something older. The Voruuk didn't conquer us out of hate. They were running. The room went silent. Running from what? Aric asked. Elara turned on the hollow display. A projection filled the room, a fragment of decoded data from the Voruuk archives. It showed a spiral of light collapsing into itself, consuming everything around it. They called it the Eclipsera, a being or force that consumes energy, civilizations, entire universes. The Voruuk weren't conquerors. They were refugees. A long silence followed. Someone whispered, and now it knows about us. That night, Aric couldn't sleep. He walked through the ruins of the old city, past the burned-out shells of alien machines. The world smelled of smoke and rain. Above, the scar in the sky pulsed again, faint, rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat. He activated his comm. Erebus, this is Hale. Are you seeing that light? Rourke's voice came through, static-ridden. Affirmative. Not sure if it's atmospheric, but it's growing. Then the signal cut out. All across the planet, power grids flickered. Lights dimmed. The air itself seemed to vibrate. From orbit, Erebus detected a sudden energy surge from the exact coordinates where the original gate had formed. Not opening, reforming. Elara's voice broke through comms. Aric, it's not over. The next morning, the scar was gone. In its place hung a black sphere, silent, featureless, absorbing light. Astronomers called it a gravitational anomaly. The survivors called it the Eye. Every night, the Eye grew brighter, a dull, crimson ring forming around its edge. The same pulse heard in the Voruuk data echoed across every radio band on Earth, a repeating sequence like a heartbeat. Elara translated it over weeks of sleepless work. The message was simple, terrifying. We found you. Aric stood once more before the people, broadcast through the global network. Behind him, the Eye burned above the horizon. We thought we'd won, but maybe we've only stepped onto a bigger battlefield. We don't know what's coming, but we're done hiding. Humanity survived the Voruuk. We'll survive whatever this is. He turned to Elara. Prepare the fleet. We're going back to where it all began. She nodded. To the scar. No, Aric said. Beyond it. Voiceover fades with quiet, ominous music. The war for Earth was just the prologue. Now begins the war for existence itself. 4 or 5 years, the sky had belonged to them. Now it was burning with our fire. When the gate collapsed, the shockwave rolled across every continent. Voruuk towers dimmed. Their drones fell from the air like dying stars. Their endless hum, the sound that had haunted every survivor's dreams, was suddenly gone. What replaced it was silence. And then, in that silence, came a sound Earth hadn't heard in years. Human laughter. In the ruins of Berlin, Commander Aric Hale climbed from the rubble, half blind from smoke and light. His comm crackled with overlapping voices, resistance enclaves from every region, shouting through static. Power grids are failing. Alien patrols retreating. South Asia Cell reporting free zones. We've got clear skies over New York. Repeat, clear skies. It wasn't victory. Not yet. But it was the first breath of one. By dawn, 1,000 hidden enclaves emerged into daylight. Old flags were raised on shattered buildings, radio towers rebooted, and humans began linking the broken world through improvised relays. The new network called itself the Chain, one voice, many hands. Era transmitted the first message. To all survivors, this is Commander Hale of the Earth Resistance. The gate is gone. The Voruuk are trapped here with us. And that means this is our planet again. Orbit, meanwhile, was chaos. On Erebus Station, Dr. Elara Myles and Commander Voruuk watched the sensor feeds. Dozens of Voruuk ships drifted without coordination, their command network severed. Some self-destructed. Others fell into the atmosphere like burning meteors. But not all of them died. Look, Voruuk said, zooming in on a cluster near lunar orbit. Their capital ship, still active. Elara frowned. The massive vessel pulsed irregularly, venting energy. They're stabilizing, trying to rebuild command. Voruuk's mechanical eyes dimmed. Then we strike before they remember how to fight. Back on Earth, Aric gathered his commanders in a bombed-out museum that now served as headquarters. Maps littered the marble floor, traced with glowing markers of reclaimed zones. The Voruuk aren't gods anymore, he told them. They're cut off, starving for power, desperate. That makes them dangerous, but it also makes them mortal. Sergeant Juno grinned through bandaged lips. Then it's time to hunt the hunters. The plan was madness. A global strike on every remaining Voruuk command node. Human drones scavenged from alien wreckage, old tanks restored with hybrid tech, even converted cargo ships armed with stolen plasma cannons. For the first time since the invasion, the human offensive had begun. The first battle came at dawn over the ruins of Shanghai. The Voruuk fortress there, a spire of living metal, woke too late. Human aircraft, resurrected from museums and rebuilt with alien drives, roared through the clouds. Their engines screamed human defiance. Missiles tore into the spire's base while ground troops flooded the perimeter. Plasma fire met steel, and the streets became rivers of light. When the fortress finally collapsed, the explosion could be seen from orbit, a flower of blue and orange spreading through the fog. Across the planet, other fortresses fell in the same day. Every explosion sent a message: the Empire bleeds. In the command center of Erebus, Elara monitored the chaos. Each energy surge from Earth fed data back into their systems. The Valkyrie cannon was recharging, but slowly, too slowly. Voruuk leaned over the console. If the Voruuk flagship reestablishes the link to their dimension, everything we've done ends. Elara clenched her fists. Then we cut it off for good. She opened a channel to Earth. Aric, we've got one more target. Big one. Above the moon. Static crackled. Then Aric's tired voice came through. Send me the coordinates. We're not done yet. The Resistance prepared the impossible. A launch using the same rebuilt shuttle network that had once carried Elara into orbit. Dozens of crafts, patched together from human and alien parts, were rolled out of hidden hangars. Pilots volunteered, knowing most wouldn't return. They didn't care. One of them approached Aric before launch. Sir, if we don't make it. Aric cut him off. Then make it worth it. The night they launched, every surviving enclave watched the sky. Fire trails crossed the stars. Humanity's ships rising again, chasing the monsters who'd stolen their world. Children pointed upward through broken rooftops, whispering, they're coming for us. Elara watched from Erebus as the fleet climbed toward the moon. Her voice, steady but heavy, filled the comms. For 5 years, we waited in silence. Tonight, we speak in thunder. In lunar orbit, the Voruuk flagship loomed like a fortress of shadow. Its hull shimmered with residual energy from the shattered gate. Thousands of alien drones swarmed to defend it. The human fleet met them head-on. No formation, no coordination, just chaos and courage. Old F-35s alongside alien interceptors. Homemade railguns firing beside stolen plasma turrets. The battle turned space into a storm of light and debris. Aric's shuttle cut through the debris field, engines howling. Erebus, we're through. Target in sight. Voruuk's voice echoed across the comms. Valkyrie locked. Awaiting your mark. Aric gritted his teeth, steering toward the flagship's glowing heart. Marking now. From Erebus, the cannon fired again, a beam so bright it outshone the moon. It ripped through the flagship's hull, tearing it apart in seconds. The explosion illuminated half the Earth's surface like a second sunrise. Every Voruuk system across the planet went dark. For the first time since the invasion began, Earth was free. But the humans didn't cheer right away. They watched the light fade, silent, exhausted, because they knew freedom was just the beginning. On the surface, Aric stood beneath the returning stars. Around him, survivors lit fires where alien towers once stood. He looked up, hearing the static of Elara's voice through the comm. "We did it, Aric. The gate, the fleet, all gone." He smiled faintly. "Then we've got a world to rebuild." Elara's voice softened. "Do you think they'll come again?" He glanced at the horizon, where the sky still shimmered faintly, a scar where the rift had once been. "If they do," he said quietly, "they'll find us waiting." Voiceover fade out. "We were the conquered. Now we are the storm. And the empire that feared nothing finally fears us." The eye filled half the sky now. Black, perfect, endless. A wound in the universe that pulsed with light like breath. Every night, people gathered to watch it. Some prayed. Some cursed. Some simply stared, too tired to feel fear anymore. But deep down, everyone knew something was coming. In the rebuilt command center of New Berlin, Commander Aric Hale watched the feeds from orbit. The eye's energy signature was unlike anything seen before. Constant, rhythmic, intelligent. Dr. Elara Myles stood beside him, her hands trembling as she adjusted the holographic display. "It's not expanding anymore," she said softly. "It's waiting." Aric frowned. "Waiting for what?" "For us," she replied. For months, humanity had been preparing. The Erebus fleet, now rebuilt with hybrid human-Voruuk technology, waited in high orbit. Ships of every shape and size, patched together from the ruins of war. Every nation, every surviving enclave, every free colony contributed something. Engineers, fuel, parts, people. This wasn't an army anymore. It was humanity itself, united in one purpose, to go beyond the scar that had destroyed their world and learn what waited on the other side. On launch day, the world went silent. Cities stopped rebuilding. Radios paused their broadcasts. Millions gathered in the streets, looking up. The fleet ignited, engines blazing gold against the cold dark. Thousands of lights ascending together, leaving trails across the atmosphere. The last message from Earth's surface came from a child, voice trembling through static. "Come back and tell us what's out there." From the bridge of the Erebus Prime, Aric gave the order. All ships, align formation. Set course for the eye. The stars stretched into lines as the fleet accelerated. Gravity bent. Space twisted. For a moment, everything went silent, the kind of silence that feels like the world holding its breath. And then they crossed the threshold. The transition wasn't like falling or flying. It was remembering. Colors that didn't exist. Sounds that couldn't be made. The human brain tried to fill in the blanks and failed. Crew members whispered that they saw memories, flashes of ancient worlds, dying suns, alien civilizations screaming into the void. Aric gripped the console. "Report." Elara's voice shook. "We're not in space. Not in time. We're in something else. The realm between realities," Rourke muttered. The Voruuk called it the pathway. They drifted through a landscape of broken stars, fragments of other universes, shattered and floating in the dark. Among them were ruins, ships the size of mountains, dead worlds orbiting nothing, the bones of empires that had tried to fight it. And then they saw it. The Eclipsera. It wasn't a creature, not a machine. It was a presence, an intelligence woven into the fabric of space itself. Light and shadow moving with purpose, observing. A living storm of gravity and thought. When it spoke, it wasn't with sound, but with understanding. "You came from the wound." Elara's knees gave out. The entire ship vibrated with the resonance of that voice. "You are small, yet you crossed the dark." Aric forced himself to speak. "We came for answers. For our world. For the ones who try to end us. A silence like pressure filled the air. They ran from me. You resist. Why? Because we're human, Aric said. We fight for what's ours. Even against gods. The eclipser pulsed, a ripple through infinity. Then you are unlike them. Elara's instruments lit up. Aric, it's stabilizing the dimensional field. It's helping us hold position. Why? Because I have seen the end. Everything fades, even me. But you endure. You adapt. You could be the next beginning. The light around them began to fracture, revealing glimpses of other worlds. Untouched, unclaimed, waiting. Your kind is a spark in the dark. Keep it. Carry it beyond this place. And then, just as suddenly it was gone. The fleet re-emerged into normal space, above a planet that wasn't Earth, but felt eerily familiar. Blue oceans, green continents, a sun burning gold in the distance. Elara stared at the readings. Same atmospheric balance, same gravity, even the same biosignatures. Rourke blinked. Are we home? Aric looked out the viewport, his reflection merging with the stars. No, we're somewhere new. A mirror. A chance. He opened the ship-wide channel. All units. This is Commander Hale. The path is open. The old world is gone, but this one is ours to protect. Back on Earth, months later, astronomers detected something astonishing. A second blue dot, faint but visible near the eye. A message followed, transmitted across impossible distance. We made it. Humanity endures. Tell the children the stars are waiting. Elara's voice, recorded from Erebus Prime, closed a broadcast that spread to every surviving settlement. We thought the war was about survival, but it was about evolution. The Voruuk conquered our planet. The eclipser tested our spirit. And through it all, humanity remained what it's always been, curious, stubborn, unbreakable. We are not the children of one world anymore. We are the children of many skies. Soft music fades. The final line echoes across the stars. Beyond the rift, we found ourselves.